Tell me when. Oh. Well, that works. Hello everyone. Black Witch Diary here with Stayed for another episode of Adversary, of my adversary. This is what our Friday nights look like now. Kind of. This is about as exciting as it gets. Because I can't move anymore. We went out literally to go look at something at a store this evening, and I was in fucking agony. So yeah, this is Friday. Yeah. What's the other one called?
I have no idea. I just said George just popped in my head, so that's his name now.
Yeah, those were meant for the baby, but someone else really liked them. So
those particular two.
Those particular ones.
The one that doesn't have.
Yeah.
Which you can't. Yeah, that is the other one.
So yeah, I wanted to hop on tonight. You not so much, but
well, I mean, I worked all week, and just now kind of starting to relax. I was playing some Doom, getting that out of my system. I'm not a big gamer anymore, but sometimes I like to play some games. Kind of par for the course.
Do you know, I honestly cannot wait to get off of screens. Like, once we've had the baby, and like I'm no longer like reliant on screens all the time for like entertainment, because I can't do anything else.
Yeah.
So, like,
what Doom game is the question? The new one. Doom. Fuck, I don't remember. The newest one. I got it on Game Pass, so I'll put in like a half an hour here, hour there. And
I've been playing Snake.
You have Snake, and then she plays fucking RuneScape, and I don't count that as playing a game, because you click a button, then your character repeatedly does something, and you just sit there and watch.
It's perfect for third trimester pregnancy, because it's just mildly, doesn't require a lot of, it's I'm really into my relaxing games. Like,
Minecraft.
Like Sims 4, amazing. I've always been a big Sims fan, like right from when The Sims was a thing. And yeah, I'm really into my slow games.
Stardew Valley, Stardew Valley. I have that on Steam. Don't ask me why I have it. I don't remember why I have it, but I have it. I think I've played it once. Oh, what?
These maternity bra straps are just the most unflattering thing in the world.
No, I mean, it's. I don't see how they're unflattering.
They're just so big and ugly. I hate them, but God, are they comfortable?
That's the important part.
Yeah. So I guess what we wanted to talk about tonight was, we were kind of talking about this earlier, in terms of what being like, so obviously being two occultists who have children, and what this looks like in home life. Do we have satanic children? Do we infernally baptize?
And
the short answer is no.
The short answer is no. Like the answer is no.
Well, yeah, well, no, you're right. I don't know why I said that. Yeah, no, I mean, I think in terms of being an occultist with children, I think it's a case of like we'll have our, let's say, occult paraphernalia laying around, but you know, it's not a sense of like we won't necessarily explain it unless asked to.
And even that has limits.
Yeah, of course.
Like, you know, you're not going to get into like a detailed explanation of what something is or isn't to like, you know, a fucking toddler.
Literally.
Right. So, you know, I think the main they did. Ooh, what? Say what?
I think was talking about Disciples' comment about the saying about Santa Mote documentary. We'll get onto that because I do have something to say about that if it's the
Here's the short answer for that. It was shit.
Right. It was fucking dreadful.
Yeah, I mean that deserves a short answer, but
If you're talking about the Dark Tourist one, that is, I don't know if they did something else more recently, but
I doubt it.
we watched that like what, a couple of months ago?
Yeah, something like that.
Oh my god. Like, yeah, that was a fucking shit show. Yeah.
So no, going back to the I think it's pretty simple, honestly, because it's down to a basis of I think we both believe that it is of the best interests of children to figure out their own path. Like, you know, my oldest son, you know, sends me Jesus videos from YouTube, right? And if that's his path and that's what he's connected to and that's what he feels, you know, works for him, I'm not gonna tell him otherwise, you know, because that's his choice. I mean, and I can't even say that like it's irritating that my kid sends me Jesus memes, Jesus memes, right? You know, it just kind of, I don't know, it just kind of is what it is, right? You know, I just kind of accept it. Like I'm not disappointed. I'm not upset about it. I'm not like, I mean, there's no negativity there, you know?
It's like when someone says like God bless to you, like you're not gonna get fucking offended by it, are you?
Oh.
Because like usually when people reference something about Jesus or something about God, like they do usually have the best intentions unless it's like some maniac in a comment section.
Right. Maniac. Have I ever talked to him about it? Not really, no. Like, I used to read him Celtic bedtime stories. Like, I bought a book.
I think that's like a really fun part of occultism that you can introduce that's like kid appropriate. It's like folklore and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I mean, it's not like I read him like, you know, the original Grimm fairy tales, right? Like, but I mean, it's a good book, by the way. If you haven't read the original Grimm fairy tales, I suggest that you do. Most Disney characters are based off of those. And they are a far reach from the original Grimm characters. But yeah, I got him like kind of like a Celtic kind of folklore like storybook, and you know, read him some stories out of there and stuff like that. And you know, if he felt called to it, he felt called to it. Like I feel like an appropriate age, like where like you know, if our kids start asking questions, an appropriate age to start answering them would probably be somewhere maybe around like 14, like early teenage years. I think is probably like the most appropriate.
yeah, and I think it's also really important, like if you're giving your child like some level of access to occultism to safeguard around it, because yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
there's things that I genuinely believe that, like, you know, everything's kind of like considered to be 18 plus, like in terms of, I know, like working with demons, for example, it's considered like, yeah, you know, 18 plus, but I don't even think 18 is old enough, in all honesty. Like, I wasn't fucking mature enough to be doing this shit when I was 18. Like,
Yeah.
I still did things, but like, I'm talking about like actual goetic magic and stuff like that. Like, I was still into the occult, but like to have gone that deep at that age, like, fuck, yeah, no. So I do also, I'm kind of the opinion that like even 18 is like, you know, your what's it called? Prefrontal lobe, not fully developed yet.
Yeah.
So
I mean, well, it's not fully developed until you're 25, but
well, yeah, but
25. No, I mean, I think the thing is like what a lot of people like freak out about, like with the idea of like when they know like what you do, you know, as far as kind of like magic is concerned and the stuff that we do specifically. I feel like what people freak out about is, you know, like it's like, do you have kids to sacrifice them? Or like some stupid shit like that, right? You know, and it's unfortunately, I mean, it's a thing that we have to deal with, right? Like it's the the vast misconceptions of what occultists do and don't do is a daily chore. Like you know, when you deal with, you know, people that don't understand what it is that you're doing. And, you know, people will think that, you know, having a child in such an environment is unhealthy. And I, you know, vigorously disagree with that. Like I very like passionately disagree with that statement, because the thing is what the path teaches is personal responsibility and personal accountability, self-reliance. And I feel that like every child should be raised with the idea of being self-reliant. Not that they, you know, not and again, some jackass is probably gonna take that out of context and be like, oh, yeah, but your 5-year-old can't cook for himself. And it's like, well, you know, shit, dumbass. Like it's allowing your child the freedom to make their own choices for specific things that's appropriate for the age.
it's also like a question of so if you were to put like independence and free thinking on like a scale, it's so it would suggest that and I do think it's a little bit more nuanced than this, but when it comes to children, it's the idea that the more free thinking they are, the more independent they are, the less obedient they might be. So that's something to consider as well. So, like, because obedience is still important in a child. Like, it's important that a child is obedient in order to keep them safe, right? If you say, don't do that, that's dangerous, I don't want you doing that, you know, it's important. It's a safety thing, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I'm very old school with that. It's one of my, I guess you could say, traditional kind of like value propositions or perspectives and things, where like I am very much because I told you so parent. Like when I tell my oldest son not to do something, he's like, why? Because I fucking said so. That's the only reason you need. Because I said so. Now, there are situations and circumstances which I feel like it's more appropriate to, you know, discuss kind of like the reasons behind doing something, or try to allow them to ascertain the reasoning on their own by asking, you know, a return question as to why do you think? So, for example, one good example I think I could give of this is there was one time I went out to eat with my son, and you know, neither of us finished our food, and we walked out of the restaurant, and there were kind of homeless people kind of in front of the restaurant, and I walked over and just gave them my food, and you know, I I went, walked back to Ian, my son, and he's like, well, Dad, why'd you do that? And it's like, well, why do you think? Why do you think I did that? Why do you think I would give somebody else my food? And he just kind of looks at me. He's like, I don't know. Well, think about it. Why do you think I would give?
Such an answer.
Yeah. It's like, why do you think, I would give somebody, my food? And he just kind of looks at me like, kind of like perplexed, and he just kind of goes, because they need it. And I'm like, yeah, they need it more than I do. Are you done with your food? Because he had his food with him as well. And he's like, yeah. I was like, are you going to eat it later? He's like, I don't think so. And I was like, go give them your food. Because there was a few people there. And I had him walk over and I had him do it. I mean, obviously, I stood next to him, I walked over with him, stuff like that. But, I had him do it. And, it was a moment of, learning. It was a moment of, not one of us. No. It was somebody that was in the chat. It was Maeve, but I haven't seen him in here yet.
I do have a haunted doll story, though.
Do you? You would. But yeah, so it was a moment to, teach him something, and teach him about kind of like giving back, right? Or just giving. I mean, in this particular situation, I suppose. And I think that there is no textbook when it comes to parenting. Like, I mean, that's not true. I mean, there's a shit ton of textbooks. They're all bullshit, by the way. And, it's something that, like, when you think you finally understand what the fuck is going on, it changes, right? One of the things that my son constantly has is he develops these random fucking tics that last for 2-3 months at a time. The last one, that I remember him having, I had to actively try to get him out of it because he was ripping his hair out of his head. Like, he was going into the back of his head and kind of twirling his hair like this until he ripped it out. And it's a stress response. And so, I had to, actively try to get him out of it. But being a parent, like, I think at the end of the day, we can try to incorporate, what little bit we find appropriate of our practice in day-to-day things. But I feel like it's more about the principles. It's more about the morals. And you don't need to have spiritual or religious faith, in the home to teach that. Because I feel like what people think like Christianity teaches kids, as far as that is concerned, is more fear than anything else. It's fear of consequence, because if I don't do this, then I'm going to go to hell. And I think that having a child be afraid of going to hell, I think that's a horrible thing. Like, I feel like a parent that thinks that that's okay needs to reevaluate their parenting skills.
Yeah, it's the same as like subjecting your child to like a horror movie, right? Like, kids don't understand things that like are real and not real, and they have very active imagination. I remember being a kid and being fucking terrified of hell, and like that wasn't even really pushed on me that much. Like, neither of my parents were Christian. My mum kind of dabbled in and out of it. Like, she'd have 6 months where she went to church and then be like, I don't think it's for me, and then back and forth and all of this. But I had a friend at school, first couple of years in high school, and she was Jewish, but she was a Jew that believed in Jesus.
Well, I mean, all Jews believe in Jesus. They just don't believe that Jesus was a prophet.
No, but like they believed in that Jesus was the Son of God. Like,
oh, okay,
yeah.
Okay, that's new. That's interesting.
Yeah, I don't really understand it, but anyway, but yeah, she used to talk about hell all the time, and I would just like be convinced that that's where I was going. And
that's where all the cool people go.
And Yeah, no, I used to be fucking terrified of it. And then I don't know what happened. I think I just started taking drugs.
Fair enough. No,
And-
that's one way to deal with, like, religious trauma.
And then sort of, the drugs made me forget, and then I had to address the issue of me being a drug addict. So it was kind of just forgot about it, and then eventually found the left-hand path of occultism. So, oh dear.
Yeah. Yeah. The funny thing with the horror movie thing, so Ian loves those. You would think that, he wouldn't, but like, he's definitely my kid in that sense that, like, I remember we took him to go see Terrifier 3.
He wouldn't let us in.
They wouldn't let us in with him. But I mean, that's what he wanted to watch. Like, he's watched all of the other ones, not under my watch. Like,
What the fuck?
I mean, it's kind of cool, right? Like, I mean, this is skin smoothing gone wrong, everybody. So, like, he watched all of the other ones, without my knowing, because I wouldn't let him watch it. I wouldn't let him watch Terrifier. Like, if he had never seen it before and he's like, Dad, can I watch Terrifier? I'm like, fuck no. But, he had watched them, and, he found them interesting, and he enjoyed them, and he wanted to watch the new one. And he loves all things horror. But it's funny because I remember when he was a kid, when he was a little kid, he watched this kid's movie about a walking, talking tree, right? There's this tree. I think it was a British movie. There's this tree that comes to life. It's a creepy looking tree. Like, it's not like, a nice, happy tree, right? Like, it looks like it's a creepy fucking tree. But, the tree's like friends with this fucking kid that's like grandfather dies or some shit, and ends up like showing up at his house and shit. No, and then Lord of the Rings. Which, I mean, might as well be, right? But anyway, so he loved the movie when he watched it. That fucking kid was terrified of trees for like the next 6 months. Like, put him in bed at night, and there, like, it would be raining and, windy and shit. And there was a tree right outside his window so that you could see the tree going like that. And like, he would look, and he's like, Dad, the trees. I was like, yeah, they're not going to do anything. They don't move. He's like, no, it's moving. It's like, that's the wind. Right? Like, like, I just, oh my God. 6 months. The kid was terrified of trees. Finally got over it. But like, it's kind of funny when it first happens, right? But then, like, when you see like the legitimate terror in his face, you're just like you want to protect him, but you don't know what the fuck to protect him from.
Yeah, it's like the cat with the shadows, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like you just kind of like. I mean, it's like, I'm sorry, like, I can't go out and cut it down. Like, I think I need a permit to do that because we live in the city. So, yeah, I mean, it's weird how he's always worked with that stuff. And there's like one time, like offhand, like, he asked me a question about like what it is that I believe in, and like, cause he's always been around and he's seen my altars and stuff like that. Like, so he's never actually asked the question, right? It's just kind of there, and it's just, how I prefer it.
He's not like shown to be scared of it or anything.
Yeah, no, like, he's like, it's just, he's there, he knows what it is, and he knows what I use it for, but he just never asked any questions. There's once we were at the mall. He asked me a question about like what it is I believe in, and like, the name of the God that I believe in and stuff like that. And I gave him a very basic kind of answer. Like, I mean, in the sense that, like, I could explain to him like in layman's terms that I was polytheistic and, stuff like that. And And he was interested, but like kind of like passively so, right? So he's like, oh, okay. And then he asked me for ice cream. So it's like, and that's the thing. Like I feel like trying to put your kid down a path because you're on it is really kind of denying the fact that, like, what a lot of parents do with kids is they kind of deny the fact that your kid is they are their own person.
Mm.
Like, yes, there are many things that are going to resemble you and feel like they're, it's like a mini version of you, but it's not.
Mm.
They are their own person. And like I said, like, I mean, he like, every other day he's sending me a fucking Jesus meme, and I'm just like, all right, cool. Like, I heart it, if he says, God bless you or some stuff like that. I mean, I say it back, I was like, it's not going to kill me to do that. But that's his choice. That's the choice that he's making. And I'm okay with that choice. I'm not going to judge him on it, ever. And, if later on down the road he has some type of epiphany and he's like, no, I don't want to be a Christian. I want to be something else. It's like, okay, cool. Or I want to be atheist. Okay, cool. It doesn't really matter. Just do your thing. And I think being an occultist and being a parent, like there isn't as much crossover as you might think. Like, because generally speaking, you kind of do want to be careful with energy work around your kids and stuff like that, and what type of magic you're working in your house. Like, I mean, you don't want to be doing baneful magic like all the fucking time. Like when you got kids in the house, 'cause kids are highly susceptible to shit. They really are. And you don't want to risk anything. Like, I mean, because here's like one big thing. I am one of those people that I do fully believe in what it is that we do. And I stand by my statement that I said a few months ago that if you're not going to grab a gun and shoot someone, don't curse them and don't hex them. Right? If you sit there and you think about a problem that you're having with a person in your life, and you sit there and you say, if I could get away with it and I could shoot this person, would I do it? And if the answer is no, don't hex them, don't curse them. Right? At least nothing fatal. Like, you want to teach them a lesson, you want them to kind of like open up their path, open up their mind type shit, that's fine.
Yeah, but if you're specifically wishing like the end of their life, you shouldn't be doing that unless you feel like it's something you'd do yourself if you could get away with it, basically.
Yeah. And, within that,
Sorry. I mean, look how much like the fucking newspaper outlet Jezebel like shat themselves after after Charlie Kirk's assassination, because like they're like, oh, like, and it's just like, well, not that I think that was the reason, obviously, because
I mean, there's some idiots that do.
Etsy witches are like renowned scam artists, but like, they like shat themselves after they did it.
Was that satirical? No, it wasn't satirical. They actually hired.
They actually hired it because the shop that they named the shop that they got it from, and the shop has confirmed that it was them. Like, they've screenshotted the article, put it on their banner to like advertise, essentially. So but anyway, let's rear back onto values, I think, because I just want to talk about like what values do we have like on as like left-hand path occultists that we pass down to our children. It's not inherently like we're saying this is like a left-hand path thing, but in the sense of like personal autonomy, accountability, responsibility, and all this kind of thing. I know for me that like with our child on the way, one of the most important things is kindness. Being kind to other people unless, you know, that like take no shit as well. Like, you know, if someone punches you in the face, fucking punch them back, because, you know, I could have done with them hearing that from my parents when I was younger, because I was always told to be like, you know, oh, just ignore bullies, and like,
See, the thing is,
that never helped me.
Ian is too much of a sweetheart. Like my oldest son, he's too much of a sweetheart to do something like that. Because I've raised him on the idea that you give people one warning. One warning. That's it. So if somebody's picking on you, somebody's giving you shit, you say, stop fucking with me, or stop, you know, saying what you're saying, or just, you know, you tell them to stop once. And then if they keep going, you lay them the fuck out. You lay them the fuck out. And that's how I raised my kid. You know, I know some people are going to disagree with that, you know, but, you know, it's, I want him to understand the idea of you do not start anything, but do not be afraid to finish it. You know, stand up for yourself, protect yourself, you know, but, you know, don't start anything. Because I know how kids are. I was bullied in school, and it's relentless. It is relentless. So yeah, I gave him, you know, and he did it. I can't remember the situation. Do you remember? Like, I think we were in England when it happened. He did it. He ended up hitting somebody. Right?
And you didn't have to go at him for it because it was...
Yeah, no, I told him I was proud of him. You know, I was like, good job. You know, like...
do it again.
You know, somebody was doing something to him, and they hit him. Or no, they grabbed something from him, and they threw it on the ground. And then, like, he hit them or some shit like that. And I was like, cool, you stood up for yourself. You know? And, like, and the thing is like, my son is what I would call a gentle giant, right? He is 11 years old, but that kid looks like he's about 13. Like, he's a big kid. And he does not know his own strength, right? Like, he has such, I don't know, like, just a strange perception of himself that, you know, he doesn't feel empowered, right? You know, when he's around other people. And so he goes out of his way to try to be accepted by other people. And, you know, it's just, there's some of the times like how people treat him just like, oh, as a parent, oh boy. So I remember there was this one time I brought him to a birthday party. I've told you this story plenty of times. And I was sitting there dealing with parents. I don't want to say I was hanging out with parents because, I mean, look at me, right? When I show up, when I show up to a kid's birthday party, I look exactly how I look right now. And when I walk in, people go, "What the fuck is that?" So I'm not exactly, you know, someone that, you know, people want to talk to. But there was a pool at this party. Now, it wasn't a pool party, but there was a pool there. And my son doesn't know how to swim. And one kid that was bullying him for some time at the school he was going to for that time period pushed him into the pool. Like the shallow part, thankfully, because if it was the deep part, like he doesn't know how to swim, that could have ended very badly. But so they pushed him into the shallow part. Thankfully, he's tall enough that like he freaked out a little bit, but then he stood up and realized that like the water was like right here. You know,
that's like almost even worse though, because if you're pushing someone into a shallow pool, they could easily hit their head on the bottom.
And so he got out, he came over, he was crying, he was all wet. I was like, what the fuck happened? It's like everybody's over talking and shit. None of the parents are paying attention. I'm trying to pay attention to him, but I couldn't see where the fuck he was. And he comes over and he's all wet and shit. I'm like, what the fuck happened? And he's like, this person pushed me. And then I told the mother, and the mother goes like, you know, oh yeah. You know, it's just, you know, boys being boys and playing and stuff like that. And I'm like, I just kind of look at it. I was like, can you get your husband, please? Like, and then he tried to repeat that sentiment like that. It's like, you do realize that like in a situation like that, and like I explained this, like in a situation like this, my son does not know how to swim. If that was in the deep end of the pool, he could have drowned. you know, your son is, and I said a long line of choice phrases and words, which inevitably ended up in a more, um, heated conflict. And yeah, I ended up getting to a fight at a kid's birthday party, like a physical altercation at a kid's birthday party. Um, because we're all in agreement that Addie's date is not going to, beat up a child. So that wasn't an option. We're not going to beat up his mother. So, you know,
Not gonna beat up his mum.
right. So, in this case, shit rolls uphill. Right. So, and I wasn't looking to get into a physical altercation, but I was looking for some recognition that, yes, this was bad. We're going to talk to him about it. And,
Like fucking accountability.
like some type of accountability to it, but it was just excuses after excuses after excuses after excuses. And I don't play that shit. I really don't. Like, I remember earlier today, I sent Dyra a meme, like a video meme on Instagram. It's from a TV show. I don't know what it's called. It looks like one of those Better Call Saul type things or something like that. But there's this guy, looks like he's at a birthday party with his daughter. Something happens. And, she says, "Oh, I need to grab this thing." He's like, "No, leave it." And she goes to turn around and leave. And some dude at the birthday party smacks her in the back of the head. And the dad walks out and stuff like, he's like, "Oh, I forgot my phone," goes back and beats the shit out of the guy. And I sent it to Dyer, and I'm like, I wouldn't have made it out of that birthday party.
And I was like, I'll just let you get on with it.
Like, I mean, like
I'd have no objection.
Like, I was like, you either have to pull me out or just go get the car started, because if somebody lays hands on my kid, you're done. That's all I can fucking say. You're done. And I am a very strict parent. I set down a lot of rules, but I'm also very protective. I'm highly protective. And I think that that's something that a lot of kids also miss is, knowing that their parents are there to protect them, knowing that their parents are, going to be there no matter what.
Yeah, absolutely. I think also in terms of like values in the home, it's not just about the kids, it's also how we treat each other. And the values we have in our relationship. So what would you say that those are?
I think the biggest thing is communication. I think one of the things that I always want my children to be able to do with me is have the confidence that they can come to me and speak to me about whatever it is that they have going on. That they're not afraid that there's going to be a consequence if they make a mistake, or that they're not going to get like their ass wringed out because they made a mistake, but that they can say, "Hey, Dad, I fucked up. This happened. What do I do?" Type of thing. And it's a double-edged sword, because you need your kids to know that there are going to be consequences for their actions, but at the same time, you need them to be accountable enough and comfortable enough with you to talk to you about those problems, so they can sit there and say, "Yes, I made this mistake, and I am, I'm stuck." So, and I think that as a parent, I think that's one of the most difficult points to balance with children, especially going into adolescence, is keeping them to that point where they're comfortable speaking to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And something that, like with us, like as all couples, like we've had our conflicts, we've had our arguments, we've had our rough patches, but we've never called either one a name.
Never.
And I think that's really important.
And we've always talked about situations. Like when something would come up, we talk about it. We don't pass blame. We do say, this made me feel this way. you know, and it's about, you know, obviously somebody has to start taking accountability, but it's both people taking accountability for their part in what's going on,
Mm,
you know, and like that's the biggest thing
mm,
is, and I think that's the hardest thing for a lot of people, is for both sides of something, you know, to sit there and say, yes, I'm equally responsible for this, maybe in a different way, but I do have a level of responsibility in the situation. And, you know, I need to, you know, accept that. And when it turns into a conversation like that, where it's, we both say, okay, you know, I'm sorry that, you know, what I did and what I said, you know, made you feel that way. That wasn't my intention. This is what I was trying to get across, and I'm sorry that, you know, I didn't get it out right and I didn't use the right words, and you know, it created, you know, this emotional response inside of you. Um, and we just talk it out. That's it. We just talk it out. And sometimes there's raised voices, but there's never really, like, you know, there's never name calling.
mm.
There's never disrespect. You know.
And we always talk it out, even if it takes us like 8 hours. Like, 'cause I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure it has taken that long before.
Mhm.
Um,
Well, it's like an up and down thing, right?
yeah.
Like, you talk about a part of it, it calms down a little bit. Then the brain, as your brain level, your cortisol levels calm down, you start to think more
Mm,
clearly, and then something else comes up, and you spend another hour and a half talking about a completely different point of the same fucking thing,
mm.
right? And you just kind of have that back and forth, right?
And it can
And
be like it is genuinely the most knackering, draining thing in the world to do that. But what's the latter? You know, sweeping it under the rug, not communicating about it, letting it fester, and it's just going to turn into
Mhm.
something a lot more sinister than it actually is.
Mhm.
So you're better off just, you know, chipping away at it
Mhm.
until it's no longer this massive fucking rock, but, you know, a little pebble.
Yep, exactly. You keep chipping away at that too,
Yeah.
you know. And so I think that aspect of who we are, translating that into teaching our children how to be that way in most situations, right?
Mm.
Like, I would much prefer our child to discuss their issues with classmates and peers than getting into fights. But at the same time, understanding that sometimes, you know, in those situations, you can't talk it out. You need to defend yourself.
Mm.
So do so. But if you're able to, talk it out first. You know, have that conversation, right? Allow people to tell you how they felt in the situation, and make sure that they allow you to say how you felt in that situation. And then through that, find a solution.
Yeah. And I think, you know, calling your child names is wildly inappropriate
Mm-hmm.
as well. I know that for me, that being done to me, and also witnessing that being done to my sibling,
Mm-hmm.
like, really just it affects you on such a deep level. Like, you can feel it like in your solar plexus. Like, and that sinking feeling of just like feeling like nothing. So yeah, I'd never ever want to subject that feeling onto my child and make them feel like that and make them question the person that they are.
Yep.
Because that's like the fucked up thing as well. Like, when people gaslight their kids and like say that or imply that you know, they're inherently like a bad person and things like that. Like, that is psychological abuse and trauma inflicted on children. And the thing is like, as adults, and I know we've both had this experience of like, when you confront this person in adulthood, they don't fucking remember it, because to them it doesn't seem like this big deal. They don't even remember doing it.
Yeah. I mean, with my oldest, there have been times that he's irritated the fuck out of me, and I've said, I mean, I'm not a perfect parent. There are times that, you know, I've slipped up and I've said things that, you know, you know, that, I mean, I've never actually called them, I've never called them names or anything, but, you
Mm.
know, if I've been I've overreacted a little bit to some situations. But one thing I always make sure to do when my brain calms down, I am never afraid to tell my son I'm sorry.
Mm.
And I think that's one thing a lot of parents,
Pride.
yeah, like a lot of parents have a hard time with that.
Letting go of your pride.
Like with a child, and telling your child that you're sorry. And there are times that, you know, I have called him into my office and I sat him down next to me, and the first thing I asked him was, what did we learn in this situation and why did I get upset? And he'll tell me, and I'll be like, I also want to say something. He kind of looks at me, and I'm like, I'm sorry that I got so upset.
Mm.
You know, and we hug it out. Like, we hug it out. I hug him. I tell him I love him. You know, you are everything to me. You're my world. You know, and, you know, I'm not going to tell you that I'm never going to do it again because dad's always going to make mistakes. But understand that dad will always accept those mistakes,
Mm.
and dad loves you, you know? And
Yeah.
I think that that's an important thing. It's also important for them to know that, yeah, my parents make mistakes, but at least my parents can own up to those mistakes. And if my father, especially with a son, if my father can own up to his mistakes, you know, and apologize for them, then so can I.
Mm. Yeah, and like owning up to your mistakes isn't the thing, like, oh, I'm so, like you say to your kid, like, oh, I'm such a shit parent, I'm so sorry. Like, no, don't fucking play that shit. Like, that's so damaging as well, because then you're making your child feel guilty. So you need to it feels like it shouldn't be such a big ask to regulate, you know, as a parent, regulate your own emotions. But this is the thing, when like people with unresolved trauma have children, like it inevitably like gets projected. And then when there's people probably like ourselves that have done a lot of work on resolving our trauma, we then have this fear of like traumatizing our kids. But the thing is that I read this thing once, and it's like, someone asked this psychologist, like trauma specialist, like, how do I not traumatize my children? She was like, birth is inherently a trauma. Like, birth is traumatic. Your child is born through a traumatic process. You're going to fuck up. You're going to make mistakes. You're never gonna, like, your child is never gonna remain this clean slate. Because the thing is, even if you are a perfect parent, they're gonna get fucked up by other things.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's, you know, I think one of the biggest things that, the two biggest things that I regret the most with my oldest is not taking to the park as often as I would like to. And that was just because I was paranoid. I mean, for those that don't know, like, I mean, we live in Mexico, and Mexico is definitely known for not being the safest place in the world. And
Trafficking, kidnapping.
And so the thing is like, you know, me taking him out, like, yes, I know how to fight. Yes, I know how to defend myself. You know, I know all of these things, I know these disciplines, but, you know, I'm not this fucking Superman. Like, you know, a van pulls up with 4 or 5 guys. You know, I'll do what I can, but it's, you know, let's be realistic, right? It's not a movie. It's not Hollywood.
And it's worse when you've got a really fucking cute kid as well.
Exactly. Yeah. So, you know, yeah, I didn't take him out as
just
often.
Put really ugly masks on our children.
Right. You know, it's just, yeah. And so for me, it's like, you know, like I regret that so much, because like it broke my heart, because there's so many times that he would come and he would ask, Dad, can we go to the park today? Dad, can we go to the park today? And I would tell him no, because I was afraid of what might happen in the park. And I felt the easiest way to protect him was to keep him in the house. And, you know, unfortunately that translated into, you know, trying to spend time with him doing other things like in front of the computer and showing him video games and stuff like that, which unfortunately started his addiction with screen time. And so those are, I think, my two biggest regrets with him growing up is, not taking him out to touch grass more often and, allowing him to get to the point of being obsessive with video games and shit.
It's so difficult now as well with things like screens. Like it's just like especially because we rely on them now as well. Like something I'm really conscious of, like when the baby's here, is that I'm not gonna obviously when he's like a newborn, it's not gonna be as he's only really gonna be interested in below the neck anyway. So yeah, I'm not really worried about when he's a newborn, but when he starts to be more aware of his environment, just giving away the gender, it's a boy. When he starts to be more aware of his environment, I don't want him to see me like this, or either of us really. He's not going to use my phone for entertainment. In terms of what he knows off the phone, it will be FaceTiming family. He will look at the phone and think, yeah, I'm going to talk to Nanny, not, oh, I get to play a game on Mummy's phone. It's like, oh, that's where we talk to Nanny or Uncle or whatever.
And yes, he did learn how to read and write. He actually writes really, really well. He's also very good at typing. I also made sure that I tried to turn it into a learning experience as often as I could. So I work from home. So a lot of the times I would bring him into my office and I have a laptop. So I'd be working on my main rig and I would sit him next to me on the laptop and I would put up a typing game and teach him how to type. Also taught him coding. So he does know how to code a little bit. Nothing crazy, but I remember the look on his face the first time he wrote code and then he processed it and it said hello world,
bless him,
using HTML. So I taught him how to do that with HTML. So how to compile it and then write the code and then compile it. And then it says hello world. And so he was all excited. He's oh, and so I did everything I could to take what was in my mind a negative and turn it into a positive that, he could, use later on. And, one of the things that, to this day, that he's adamant on is he wants to be a game designer. He loves video games. He likes technology and he's very creative. And so he wants to make video games. And so, I try to, lean into that with him. So I still wish I would have taken him to the park. He still likes going to the park. Don't get me wrong. He's 11, I've still, I've taken him to the park and stuff like that. And he loves it. He loves going outside and, all that stuff and playing with the ball and riding his scooter, and, and I'm more comfortable doing that more often, so I learned how to type in 9th grade in a Catholic boys' school from a priest
who'd have been a boxer. That's interesting.
Right? Painful, but I'm excellent. Good skill. Sounds like you did the best you could in modern parenting.
I think COVID massively fucked up kids' education as well.
Yeah.
We still haven't recovered from that. In Western society, we still haven't recovered from that, fucking 2 to 3 year, held back. Because, you can homeschool your kids, fine, but, who the fuck was equipped in the pandemic to homeschool their kids, Suddenly that's just, a thing. So...
Yeah, definitely, John. Definitely. That is definitely a big thing to look at. It is not it is a very toxic industry. It really is. So.
Is it really?
Oh yeah, it is.
Interesting. Never thought of it like that.
Yeah, it wasn't. It's not until recently, honestly, the last 5 years that really a lot of game studios have been going under fire for the way that they treat employees,
Really?
like particularly female employees. Like, and it's just being
I
like,
can understand that though. It doesn't really surprise me.
so, you know, it's just kind of like kind of disgusting. Like one of my favorite game studios, Blizzard, the one that makes Diablo. You know, like they got some leaked information from like the Diablo team, and like, you know, some of the going ons of how they like handled the people in that company are just it's horrendous. I think it's gotten better since Microsoft has bought them. I think, yeah, Microsoft bought they bought Blizzard, Activision, and a couple other studios. Yeah, so you know, it not only is it a cutthroat industry, but it's also a very toxic industry. Like you would think that working for a game studio like would probably be like, you know, a dream job, but you know, some of the shit that I've seen and heard from people is just it's fucking disgusting. And also the pay. You think some of these guys, like these programmers and developers and designers, make shit tons of money. Like when you start looking at their pay stubs, like what the fuck is going on there?
Mm.
Like, I mean, you make more money working at fucking McDonald's. You know, at least in the States. I don't know about anywhere else, but you know. So yeah, it's you know, but I'm not going to squash his you know, passion for it. You know, if anything, you know, I would like him to, you know, get some internship under his belt when he's older and maybe do some, you know, low level work in an actual studio. And then, you know, if he still likes it, you know, stuff like that, he's got a lot of brilliant ideas for stuff. And, you know, I don't know, I would put money in to have him set up his own studio and run it how he wants to. So, you know, but yeah, so being an occult parent, you know, it's no different than being any other parent. I think that's the point here, right? It's it's no different than a Christian parent, you know, or a Jewish parent, or you know, a Muslim parent. You know, I mean, our spirituality doesn't dictate, you know, our parenting style.
No.
I think that
What do you think is like a cliche expectation about like, I don't know, us as parents? Like, what do you think a cliche expectation would be?
I mean, I think what people would think, I mean, it's just ridiculousness, you know.
Yeah.
You know, I think most people, their expectation of knowing that we're occultists and goths, you know, so we're not only like spiritually weird, we're aesthetically weird.
Yeah.
So I think that most people are kind of going to look at that and go, oh, you know, they did like a dark baptism, or you know, they sold their child to the devil, and you know, they're doing this and they're doing that, and you know, they probably do rituals with the kid in the room, and you know, it's like,
I think as well, it's like this assumption, like even if you take the occult stuff out of it, you just like take the fact that we are just two alternative people. This assumption that like we're super liberal with our parenting and that we don't have rules, no bedtime.
yeah, that no, I'm like I said, I'm a very strict parent.
Yeah, you are.
You know, I'm compassionate, but I'm that type of father that, you know, my rule is law in my house. And you know, dinners are at the table. There are no electronic devices at the table. Dinner time is family time, and it is time to discuss your day. It is time to talk about what's going on. Um, you know, things of that nature. And you know, I throw some other stuff in there. I tell him not to put his elbows on the table, because I was taught that. You know.
Yeah, I was taught really strict table manners at my dad's.
Yeah, your shits though. Your shits is fucking like stupid, like stupid.
Like I'm actually really good with like etiquette of like like table manners and shit. Like, you know, I could probably eat with the royal family. Oh dear. But yeah, it's. I think we're very big on like, you know, kids need structure, and I assume your baby's going to come out of the womb speaking fluent Latin.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, he says he's going to have a weird accent.
I don't know. I mean, you know, the thing is like my oldest like really leaned into how I talk.
Mm,
Um, so like, I mean, you would think dude is like from like the northeastern United States.
yeah,
Um,
it's never been out of Mexico.
yeah, he's never been in Mexico. So I mean, he really grabs on, you know, to, you know, how I talk. Um, so I don't know, we'll see. We'll
I
see.
suppose it also depends because like we obviously don't want to be living in Mexico forever, and whether we move like to the States, whether we go back to England,
Mhm.
like that's going to massively influence how he speaks as well.
Well, I mean, Rob, I mean, it's just kind of like, you know, I feel like, you know, I believe that there needs to be a healthy balance when parenting. There needs to be structure, there needs to be rules, there needs to be respect for those rules and an understanding of authority. But at the same time, there needs to be a level of freedom to allow for creativity and growth, you know, and experimentation, you know, all within its healthy limits and reaches, you know, for, you know, the age of the child. Um, you know, so I feel like my son has thrived under, you know, having those, you know, regardless of whether or not he actually likes those rules, like which he is very vocal about the fact that he doesn't, but he still follows them. You know, he doesn't like when I tell him to leave his phone away from the table, he does so. You know, when I ask him about his day or about something that's on his mind, he tells me. Um, Also, you know, I'm going to be completely honest. Like, I'm one of those parents when he's in the middle of a video game and he's super hyper focused, I will run up and I will give him a hug and I will pick him up and I'll spin him around and give him kisses on his cheek and shit and just irritate the fuck out of him and just irritate the shit out of him with love, you know? And I, you know, will, you know, make sure that he understands that when he makes a mistake, that it's okay that he made a mistake, but he needs to own that mistake and he needs to do better. You know, there just needs to be a balance. Sometimes it's hard to strike that balance, but it's a parent's responsibility to do the best that they can to maintain that balance. You know, not lean too far one way or the other. So, and it's not easy. It's not easy. Like anyone that's ever been a parent, like, you know, if you're in the chat and you're a parent, you know, you know this. Like, you know, it's not easy to maintain that balance. And yeah, sometimes we fuck up, you know, and then that's where we need to own our shit. And I think like teaching from example is so fucking important as a parent. Like, if you're going to ask your kid to own up to their shit, you need to be able to own up to your own shit with your kid, you know? And like what I said a little bit earlier is like, not be afraid to let the pride down and apologize, you know? So, so yeah.
What about let's talk about the idea of gentle parenting, and because that's become pretty trendy, hasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I see videos of like, you know, people supposedly practicing gentle parenting, but it's like they set it up so that like the kid does something wrong. Like they'll have like their 2-year-old holding like a 3-liter fucking carton of milk and let them pour it on their own cereal, and then inevitably the kid's gonna spill it. It's a fucking heavy carton of milk.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, oh, never mind, like it's just like it's not real.
Yeah, it's taking the phrase "don't cry over spilled milk" way too fucking literally.
Yeah.
You know, and look, I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be honest. There have been moments that I have gotten very upset with my son because of his, you know, not so gracefulness. You know, in certain things. And the majority, I'm going to be honest, the majority of the times that I have apologized to my son for getting too upset with him is because, you know, he does something that he knows how to do it properly, doesn't do it properly, and makes a complete fucking mess. Is it an accident? Yes, it is an accident. Was it an avoidable accident? Yes, it was. Should I have gotten upset as I did? No. But it's just one of those things, you know, it happens. And, you know, here's the thing that like warms my heart and makes me want to cry with him. So I remember a particular time that like he dropped a glass, he broke a glass because he wanted to drink out of a glass, not a cup. And I was like, okay, fine. And he poured, it was milk. It was milk. So he poured the milk. That was fine. But he didn't grab it right. I said, grab it with both hands, right? Because it's too big for one hand. Grab it with both of your hands. What's he do? Grabs it with one hand, goes like this, and the glass breaks all over the floor. There's glass everywhere. There's milk everywhere, you know. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I told you, grab it with both fucking hands. Like, why would you grab it? It's like, I'm sorry. And I'm like, why don't you fucking listen to me? And, you know, I'm like, you know what? It's fine. Go upstairs. I'll clean it and I'll bring you up a cup. And like, so I bring him up his milk, and he's in his room and he's crying and shit.
Aw.
And, you know, it's one of those moments like, yeah, I hug him, I give him a kiss. I'm like, but I love you with all my heart. I'm sorry I got so upset. You know, I really am. You know, I just, you know, it, you know, I overstepped, you know, I'm sorry. I'm not going to tell you I'm not going to do it again, but, you know, it's just, I'm sorry. And I love you, you know, and we're fine after that. We talked about it, and he's just like, you know, and I can tell that he doesn't know what to say, but he knows what to do, because the next day he goes downstairs, he grabs a glass, pours himself some milk, comes upstairs with the glass in two hands, comes to the office door, and he says, Dad, look, I grabbed it with two hands. And I just go, I love you so much. I really do. Like, you could see that his heart is in it, like his heart and fucking soul was in that. And I'm just like, it's one of it's, you know, people talk about like why are you a parent? Why do you know what I mean? Like, it's moments like that like, no matter how frustrating parenting is, oh my God, it's moments like that that really do make it worth it.
What happened to the stream?
I don't know. I mean, the people are still watching. I think YouTube's just being fucking goofy.
Mm.
Like,
Let us know if you're still here, because it's saying everyone's fucking gone.
You know, so yeah, no, but it's going back up. My mother had a first printing shellac record of an Irish tenor. She loved the song. Okay, I shattered it, and she sold forever after that. Yeah, you know, and so yeah, it's just one of those things, like, you know, and it hurts me. Like, it's hard to talk about it, right? It's hard for me to say it, you know, because there is, you know, there's pride there, right? You know, there is a level of pride there where I'm like, you know, I do want to be a good parent, but I know that I make mistakes. And it was one thing with my son that I've always wanted him to see, is that even though I know I'm not perfect and that imperfectness shows through, that it doesn't mean that I love him any less.
Mm.
You know?
I think the equivalent of like that story for me in my childhood was, I remember my mum said to me, like, it was Christmas time, like around Christmas time, we had the Christmas tree up, and my mum said to me, I'm just gonna go like take a shower, do not touch the Christmas tree. I was like, yeah, all right. 5 minutes later, she like hears this like a big crash and me screaming. I obviously fucked with the Christmas tree. It fell on top of me. and there was like water all over the floor, the fucking lights on the tree are flashing, and I'm just like under the Christmas tree. And she was like, what did I fucking say?
Uh-huh.
Like, because that's the thing, right? Like, as kids, we all do shit like that. And, like, you know, it's not like my mum telling me off like that. I don't look back at that and go, oh my God, I was abused. Like, you know, so I think this whole, like, gentle parenting thing, like, you kind of need to tell your kids off sometimes for them to learn.
Yeah. I mean, with my oldest, I mean, one thing I've realized with him is that he's like a golden retriever. Like, he will do anything to make sure that, you know, he's doing right by you. And here's another thing. I want to make sure that I say this before I forget it. When I was a kid, the only thing I ever wanted to hear from my father was that he was proud of me. Unfortunately, yes, like I heard that a lot from my father, but it was during the 6 months that he was dying that he told me constantly that he was proud of me. And I'm thankful for that. Like I forgave him for our butting heads and everything that happened. That's a different story for another day. But one of the things that I always make sure with my kids is that they know that I'm proud of them. Like I tell my son, my oldest, all the fucking time, I am proud of you.
Even now, as like in my late 20s, when like my mom or my dad tell me they're proud of me, I'm like, oh, like it's genuinely like one of the best feelings ever, other than saying like that, you know, I love you. But like when they say I'm proud of you, it's just like, you know, it's such like an inner child moment, you know.
Yeah.
But then again, you know, we can't always rely on our parents to give that to us, even later in life. So we have to also be proud of ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, but I think if as a child, as like when a kid hears that, like, and it's legitimate and it's real, and you tell your child that you're proud of them, it is easier for them to be proud of themselves when they're older, because they grew up knowing that mom and dad are proud of me for the littlest, stupidest fucking thing that I do. They're proud of me.
Yeah, it's also like important, like what you're proud of them for as well, because a lot of the time in my childhood, it was like, I'm really proud of you because you're smart, because of your academic achievements, and because you know you passed this exam, you got this result, and all of that. So when I was sort of like 14, 15, and I started to really struggle because I developed like an eating disorder. And you know my mental health was really bad, and I was like missing school and in hospital and things like that. The worthlessness of, you know, I can't be what like you know people want me to be. But then I found that okay, people also care about me when I'm sick. So it's like the messaging that I got, it's like, okay, you're either like you do really well academically, or people care about you when you're sick, so they don't want you to die. So I had some really fucked up messaging, which took like years for me to undo. And even like, I think actually being quite ill during this pregnancy has been a bit challenging, because it's brought up a lot of that stuff. Like when I'm sick, I'm cared about. So yeah. So it's important to establish to your kids that you're proud of them for being inherently themselves. You know, like I'm proud of you because you're kind, you're funny.
That's what I do. That's kind of like the focus with my oldest is like, you know, making sure that I'm proud of him for who he is. You know, And, you know, it's just, yeah, like not, it doesn't need to be anything specific. He doesn't need to do anything specific, that I am proud of him because he's him.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's important that it's that unconditional love. Like, they need to feel that they are unconditionally loved.
All right, so I think we've been running this for like almost about
an hour and a half. Yeah, this chair is absolutely killing my back as well.
Well, it's your live, so
it is my live. Well, thank you everyone for hopping in and saying hi. It's been quite a nice chilled out live, hasn't it?
It has. It's been very chill. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, I've enjoyed just sitting here talking about this stuff. It's been nice. So thank you so much for joining us. And yeah, as I said last week, I can't say when we'll be doing this again. I mean, we've kind of actually done a week.
Is like the second one.
Second, yeah. I can't promise regularity here just because of, you know, stuff. But yeah, life. But hopefully, it won't be too long. And it's just nice for me to be able to do live content. So I'm not doing pre-recorded shit at the moment because asked me to edit a video, like I was, nope. So yeah, it's nice to at least be doing some live. So thank you so much, guys, for
the documentary. Why you didn't like it?
Oh, why I didn't like the documentary? Because it was a piece of shit. It was disrespectful
to the culture.
To the culture. And he was just a patronizing bastard all the way through it. Like, like he just had this fucking stupid, irritating tone.
Yeah, he just made it like everything was a joke.
Yeah, and it was just a really silly piece, in my opinion.
It was.
And yeah, garbage, basically. But anyway, on that note, see you guys soon.
And as always, hell thy fucking self.